Knuckles turned white. You know, real estate isn't about houses and land. It's about people. And Van and I feel like our clients are the best darned people in all of Houston. A wave of nausea rolled over her. She felt her face flushing a deep, plum purple, the classic dysophium reaction. So, cheers, she managed, lifting a glass. Mrs. H. No, Van whispered from the side. Reba paused. She looked at the wine. If she drank this, she would likely collapse on the spot. Real estate. He's also about family. She pivoted, her voice straining. Family togetherness. And, speaking of family, she looked at a guest who was, indeed, quite large. Looks like someone starting her own family. Ma'am, when are you due? The woman froze. I'm not pregnant. And she is not a she, Van shouted from the wings, trying to help and failing miserably. The room plunged into an awkward, suffocating silence. So, everyone, cheers, Reba said, her vision beginning to tunnel. Stick around. Have a great time. Relax. Enjoy yourself. And when you go home tonight, think about who put you there. Think about, oh God, excuse me. Reba turned and bolted for the stairs. The party guests watched in stunned silence as their host sprinted away. Wow, one developer muttered. This has given us a lot to think about. Chapter 6. The Canola Oil Confession. While the drama unfolded in the main house, Brockhart was dealing with his own crises in the guest house. He had succumbed to the seductive lead. The 3 cigarettes he had smoked in rapid succession had left him feeling lightheaded and smelling like an old ashtray. He was currently in the bathroom, desperately trying to cover the scent. He had already used half a bottle of cologne and an entire can of lemon-scented air. In a moment of desperation, he reached under the sink and found a bottle of Barbara Jean's Natural Skin Glow spray, which turned out to be canola oil in a fancy bottle. He was misting himself when Barbara Jean burst in. Brock, what are you doing? Brock froze, the spray bottle mid-air. Nothing. I'm moisturizing. Barbara Jean narrowed her eyes, sniffing the air. It smells like a French fry factory in here. And every time I walk into a room today, you are spraying yourself with something. Cologne, air freshener, and now, cooking spray. They say it's very good for the skin. BJ. Liar, Barbara Jean shouted. What's her name? Whose name? The skirt you've been running around with, the one whose perfume you're trying to cover up. Is it that tramp Kathy Tillman? Brock, it's not Kathy Tillman. Then who is she? Brock sighed, the weight of the deception finally breaking him. Barbara Jean. Look, it's this. He pulled the crumpled pack of cigarettes from his pocket. I've been smoking. Barbara Jean gasped, her hand flying to her heart. Smoking? Who got you hooked on smoking? That tramp Kathy Tillman? Barbara Jean. Think, what would I need with another woman when I have these? He shook the pack. Honey, this is not okay, Barbara Jean said, her voice turning soft and maternal. We have 2 children living in this house. You cannot smoke. This has got to stop. It will, Brock promised, feeling a genuine wave of shame. I'll go to the store. I'll get the patches. I'll get the gum. I'm sorry I got so crazy back there. It's okay, Barbara Jean said, hugging him. And just so you know, Kathy Tillman is one of my nearest and dearest friends. I feel so embarrassed for accusing her. Don't worry, Brock muttered into her hair. I'm sure she's used to it. Chapter 7. A bell. Back in the main house, the party had dispersed in a cloud of confusion. Reba was upstairs, lying across her bed with a cold compress on her head. The nausea had subsided into a dull, throbbing ache, but the humiliation was fresh. Cheyenne sat on the edge of the bed, watching her mother. I don't understand it, Reba moaned. I was feeling terrific. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, Van added, hovering in the doorway. I mean, you eat right, you work out, you take your vitamins. Knock it off, Van. Oh, I'm just making a little joke. She has no idea what I'm talking about. What are you talking about? Reba asked, peering out from under the Cheyenne took a deep breath. Mom, the vitamin you took. It wasn't a vitamin. It was my booze-away pill. I put it in an old vitamin bottle, so you wouldn't find it. But you found it anyway, and you took it. Reba sat up slowly, the compress falling to the quilt. You take a pill so you don't drink. Yes. What do they think about that down at the meeting? Cheyenne looked away. About the meetings, I stopped going. Reba's heart sank. Cheyenne, why? Why would you stop going? Because they got a bell, Mom, Cheyenne shouted, her frustration finally boiling over. You used to be able to talk about yourself for as long as you wanted, and everyone had to listen. But now, when they think you talk too long, they ring a bell on you, and I'm the only one they do it to. Reba stared at her daughter. I'm sure it just seems that way. They call it getting shit. Reba felt a laugh bubbling up in her chest, a hysterical, exhausted laugh. Well, what are those people thinking? The whole point of the meeting is so you'll talk about your drinking. Cheyenne bit her lip. Okay, well, that's not exactly what I talk about. What do you talk about? I talk about lots of stuff, shopping, and makeup, and shoes. American Idol. Cheyenne, Reba said, her voice turning firm. It's a 12-step meeting, not a slumber party. Why don't you talk about the drinking? Because it's embarrassing. Mom, it's ugly, and it's sad, and I don't want to be the sad girl in the room. Really, more embarrassing than getting Cheyenne looked down at her hands. I just want this to be over. I want to be normal again. Reba reached out and took her daughter's hand. I know you do, honey, but it's going to be a struggle. It's something you're going to have to deal with for the rest of your life. There are no shortcuts, not cigarettes, and not even booze-away pills. Thanks for the pep talk, Cheyenne muttered. I'm through giving you pep talks, Reba said. You're going to have to stop taking the easy way out. You're a survivor, Cheyenne, but you have to survive the hard way. So I'm supposed to go back to those meetings and let them ring a bell on me. If that's what it takes to get you better, then yes, ma'am, you're going to have to do it. Cheyenne sighed, a long, shaky breath. Fine, I'll go, but I'm going to start by telling them how mean my mom is. Reba smiled, a real, tired smile. You tell them everything. As Cheyenne walked toward the door, she stopped. Van, I need you to come upstairs and help me clean the lamp I broke earlier. Viva, Van shouted, for no apparent reason. Viva! 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 As they left the room, Reba lay back on the pillows. Her life was a mess. Her house smelled like cheap wine and canola oil. Her daughter was an alcoholic who talked too much at meetings. Her ex-husband was a closet smoker. But as she listened to the sound of her family's voices echoing in the hallway, she felt a strange, quiet peace. She was a survivor, and for today, that was enough. Chapter 8. The Room of Broken Echoes. The basement of St. Jude's smelled of stale coffee, floor wax, and the collective sighs of 30 people trying to bargain with their demons. Cheyenne stood at the top of the stairs, her fingers white-knuckled around the strap of her purse. Inside that purse was a fresh pack of cigarettes she hadn't touched yet, and her amber bottle of vitamins. She hated this room. She hated the fluorescent lights that hummed like a migraine, and the mismatched folding chairs that screeched against the linoleum. Most of all, she hated the bell. It sat on the moderator's tabula, polished brass beast that felt like a personal insult. You can do this, she whispered to herself. She took a seat in the back row, hoping to remain invisible. But in this room, anonymity didn't mean being unseen. It meant being known by your struggle. The moderator, a man named Gary who looked like he had been carved out of old leather and regret, tapped the bell once. All right, folks, let's start. Who needs the floor? A few hands went up. One woman talked about her daughter's wedding and how she almost reached for a champagne flute. A man talked about losing his job and finding a bottle of bourbon in the back of his pantry. Cheyenne listened, her foot tapping a frantic rhythm. She wanted to speak, but the words felt like jagged glass in her throat. Finally, Gary looked toward the back. Cheyenne, we missed you last week. You want to share? Cheyenne stood up slowly. The room went quiet. Hi, I'm Cheyenne. Well, I'm here. Hi, Cheyenne, the room chanted back. I had a rough week, she started. My mom threw this big party. It was a disaster. I ended up hiding these pills in a vitamin bottle, and she took one and got sick. And I felt like I was the reason everything was falling apart. Again. She felt the familiar urge to pivot. And then I went to the mall to clear my head, and I saw these shoes. They were Steve Madden, and they had these little sparkles on the heel. Ding. Gary had his hand on the bell. Cheyenne stopped. Her face burned. I wasn't done. Shoes aren't the struggle. Cheyenne, Gary said gently. The shoes Other distraction. Why are you distracting us? Why are you distracting yourself? Cheyenne felt a surge of hot,